order, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for coming. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion made, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Public comment? Okay. Consent items, do you have a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Discussion item, we're on, audit report.
Okay, you guys are up. Are you ready?
Yeah, that was quick.
Woohoo! Hey, we're not dilly-dallying around tonight.
No.
That works for me.
Alright, so I'm gonna turn you, and so you can kind of see the screen that the audience sees, so hopefully, and then just holler at us if you need to advance or whatever.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hi everyone. My name is Luke Green, manager here at CLA in our Rochester, Minnesota office. I have Lauren O'Brien with me. I don't know if Lauren wants to give a brief intro on herself quick, if she can come off mute.
Hi guys.
Hello.
I'm Lauren. I've been working on the audit a couple of years now. I'm a senior CLA. I work with Luke. I work with him for years.
Now Lauren is just tagging along to kind of see if she's been doing this on a few board meetings just to see how they go, and so I can make her do a lot of them next year. And she did most of the actual work on the audit this year, and so that's always a good thing to have her along for too. But yeah, so with that, I'll get started. So Ann, you can go to the first audit summary slide.
Maybe. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. So, audit summary. So we issued what's called a clean audit opinion, and that basically just means that the financial statements are fairly stated. We had no financial reporting findings, no Minnesota legal compliance or Yellow Book compliance findings. So basically, as clean as a report as you can possibly have as far as the financial audit. Yeah, I mean, everything looked great. You know, Gwen does a great job with the numbers and getting us the things we need, and just making sure that when we do get it, that everything ties out and is accurate and has support and all those good things. So no issues that we found there. So Ann, if you want to go to the next slide. Second audit summary slide. So this year, as you all are probably aware, you had over $750,000 of federal expenditures, and so something that the district usually doesn't have. So basically, if you hit that 750 threshold, that means you have to have a single audit, and that basically just means that we're going to have to do some detailed testing on one or more federal programs, and complete kind of a separate mini audit, what we call a single audit, and looking into the detail, compiling some extra reports for the financials and things like that. So with that said, with that single audit for you guys, we tested the coronavirus relief fund, which of course is a new program due to the pandemic. So we tested the detailed expenditures that went into that program, payroll and checks, and just looked at approval processes and things like that, just to make sure that the controls are in place, working properly, and all that. So during that separate little single audit, we had no issues or findings that we saw. Everything looked great, and yeah, it went really well. So, and that's a great thing to see, especially with the single audit, because it's something that, again, we haven't done in a number of years for you guys. So, the fact that your controls are still operating effectively, even with a new program like the CRF fund, it's good to see that there wasn't any findings and issues. So you can go to the next slide, Ian. Now we'll just get into some of the fund balance numbers that we're seeing this year. So this is your general fund unassigned fund balance. Increased about $300,000 from last year. Overall general fund increased about $1.1 million. So a small portion of that went into the unassigned fund balance. You guys, I mean, honestly, the numbers are hard to talk about comparatively or year. Next slide, Ann. Next slide is the operating capital fund balance. So this one has been really steady for you guys for the last 5 years. So this fund balance is another restricted fund balance from the state. So just money coming in has to be used for operating capital purposes. So this can be used for tech purchases, online hardware, rentals, just different things like that. Again, so you can see you guys have been very steady year to year. So the revenue comes in, you use it. You kind of have a really nice cushion here, you know. So when you hit a year, this can kind of ebb and flow a little bit. So when you hit a year that might need some bigger tech purchases or something like that, you have a nice little cushion here to use if need be. You can go to the next one. Yeah. Well, this is your long-term facility maintenance. Again, this is another restricted revenue coming in from the state. Last year, you had the science room upgrades going on, so it's a pretty big project. So that you ended up spending down this balance all the way down just a little bit below zero, which is allowed. So that's no big deal. This year, that big project was done. Not a lot of things going on this year in the LTFM as far as expenses go. So this was able to jump back up quite a bit this year. And so the LTFM is really based on the district's 10-year plan. So it really, really will ebb and flow just based on when projects happen. You might not have much for a few years, revenue keeps coming in each year, and then you might have a bigger project that gets it down to zero and into the negative, etc. So everything normal here. You can go to the next one again. All right, so this is your food service fund balance. So getting into a few of the other funds now. You guys have been negative for the last 2 years, so you were able to take advantage of the summer food service program this year and how it operated with the government essentially, providing lunches for all students. All districts saw the same type of thing where, the food service fund balance is increasing due to that revenue. So revenue in this fund was up about $50,000 from prior year due to that revenue. Federal revenue was up about $130,000. Local was down $60,000 because people weren't paying for the daily meals. So overall, some increased revenue there with how that federal calculation was happening and how much you were getting reimbursed per meal. So great to get into the positive here, and hopefully, you can have a little cushion there now, so this fund can remain in the positive going forward. Community service fund balance, you can go to the next one, Ann, thank you. Fiscal year 21, so you had budgeted to decrease about $23,000 and basically get down to essentially zero fund balance. You actually ended up decreasing about $70,000, so you did have a little bit larger decrease here. This fund is kind of hard to peg with the pandemic going on, with community ed programs being either shut down completely or slowed, or people not wanting to do them, or class sizes being diminished, all sorts of possibilities there. So hard to really keep this thing going in a good way. The revenue is down about $40,000 this year in this fund, and then expenses were just a little bit up. So not super shocking. Hopefully next summer, as the fingers crossed pandemic wanes a little bit, you can start running these programs a little bit more normally and get some of that deficit back. So thank you, Ann. Debt service fund balance. This fund kind of just operates on its own. Revenue, levy dollars come in, your debt payments go out. There's really very little to no activity in between that. So nothing too crazy or exciting here. Just levy dollars coming in, payments going out. If you issue no new bonds in the next 20 years, this fund balance will just slowly go to zero as you pay off all your debt. So obviously that's not going to happen, but that would be the general goal of this fund, is just to service your debt payments. Okay, so getting into back into the general fund just a touch. This is your general fund revenue, $31.5 million this year. So like I said, about a $10 million increase from last year. So that's a significant number. Most of that money coming from the state, so about $9.5 million of that. So the majority of that increase from state sources. You also had some federal dollars that increased as well due to some COVID dollars that the splits are pretty even, due to the state already having such a big piece of that, as far as the percentages. So it's actually not too uncomparable here as you would expect, but clearly, 90% of your total general fund revenue is coming from state, so that's obviously your biggest source there. And then going into the next two slides, so the first one here, general fund expenditures by object code. So you can just kind of see where your costs are going. 30.4 million, like I said before, $9 million increase from prior year. Of that $9 million, it was kind of split up pretty evenly, about $3 million apiece between purchase services, salaries and benefits, and then supplies. And again, most of that due to the online school. So those increases were kind of across the board. The percentages wise, as far as where that split and where the money is going, is pretty standard compared to last year. And then that last circle there, pie chart, is the same 30.4 million of general fund expenditures. This one's just split up by program code, so it's a little different way to look at it. One thing I like to highlight here, if you add up your pupil support, there on the top right, instructional support, special education, vocational, and then regular instruction, you get about 92%. And so you have about 92% of this 30.5 million is going directly to the instruction of the students. So not like building, maintenance, or admin, essentially. So that's obviously a really good number. The online school skews that a little bit, of course, like makes it a little higher than what you normally see. But either way, that's a really, really high number and a really good number to kind of tip your hat off a little bit, as the money you're spending is going to the students, essentially. So you can go to the next one here. Okay, and so the reason I keep mentioning the online school increase, you can see the ADMs, and this is including, so this is ADMs for the entire district, including the online school, of almost 1,000 higher than prior year. So that's gonna, of course, obviously, as we saw, increase revenue and expenses and skew some of our analytics a little bit too, as we'll see on the next few slides. So clearly a big increase there. So Andy, can go to the next one. So the next four slides are average costs or average expenses per ADM in certain areas for a 5-year trend, including online. And I will have some lower, just a few slides here that will be just the local district, but these first four here include the online school. And over on the right, the green bar, I hope it's green for you, it's green for me, like a green yellow. That one's your state average, and then the second one from the right, the light blue, that one is your similar size district average, again including the online school ADM numbers. And those are averages, just to note, are for 2020, not for 2020. So with that said, 5-year trend, this first one is district school administrative support services. And so you see a really big decrease in the average from 656 to 475, right, per ADM. Total expenses in this category of admin and district support actually went up about 100,000. But because of that really big ADM jump, the average went down quite a bit. And that's going to be kind of a theme in the next few, excluding this next one. So this one is your regular instruction, and this is where a bulk of that 9 million increase in expenses hit, about 7.5 of it to be exact. So this one actually did see a little bit of an increase in average because such a large portion of that 9 million of increase of expenses went here. So even though you had the increased ADMs, you also had such a big amount of expenses. And those expenses, why they increased, you had 22 full-time teachers that were hired at the beginning of the year, with more hired throughout the years, and other expenses as well that came through due to those massive ADM increases. So to be expected, and you'll notice you've been well above averages here for a number of years. And honestly, if you're going to be above averages, this is the one to do it. Again, just speaks to where you're putting the money, and you're clearly putting the money towards the instruction of the students on this one. So really nothing to be concerned about being above those averages on this one. So next one is your special ed instruction. Expenses increased here about 650,000, but again, with that big ADM increase, it did go down as far as the average. But overall, kind of as expected. And then the next one, again, instructional support services, very similar. Expenses went up 150,000 here. The ADMs caused it to decrease anyways. So overall, kind of as expected on those ones. So then the next one, and we'll get into the last few here. This is just your local ADMs, so just for the local district. So this is obviously more in the 400 range, pretty steady the last 5 years. 2 ADM decrease from last year, so basically the same as far as averages and numbers go here. So going into the next slide, this is again that regular instruction. So here too, you can see that clearly you're putting the money towards the students, you're spending that money on the instruction of the students, and those are all good things. So good to see there. Vocational, kind of the same thing. There was a slight increase in salary expenses in the vocational area this year, which caused a little bit of an increase there, but overall pretty steady over the last few years. Pupil support, there were some additional counselors that were hired this year, and a few different expenses like that as far as salary expenses go, so a little bit bigger of a jump here. But overall, you've been in the high 4-5s the last few years. Sites and buildings, this can definitely ebb and flow a bit, just depending on projects going on and needs. Back in 2019, there was an asbestos project that happened, so there was a little bit of a jump there. But this can be for utilities, repairs, maintenance, custodial. There's a lot of different types of expenditures for the sites, buildings, those kind of things. So pretty steady overall over the last few years. Slight decrease in expenses this year, but nothing too crazy. Food service. So pretty standard here, pretty straightforward. The expenses for the food service fund this year were down just, I think, 5,000 it was. So just a small decrease. So pretty steady year to year the last 3 years. So that's good, considering the pandemic and everything going on, to keep expenses pretty steady the last 2 years with everything that has been happening is solid for that fund. Excuse me. Transportation. So with you guys owning your own transportation, you can kind of see how that helps. Even back in 18-19 before the pandemic and normal years, you still were kind of below those averages because having your own can kind of help with that. But the last 2 years with COVID going on, I'm sure you had decreased routes that needed to be run, and obviously virtual learning in certain times and close downs and all those kind of things. So some decreased cost here over the last 2 years is as expected. Community service had a little bit of a jump. Not as many expenses going through here, so there was about a $20,000 expense increase. So that made it jump a bit, just because of the smaller dollar number in total that you're dealing with. But overall, mid 400s the last few years. And finally, capital expenditures. So this one is kind of, will kind of fit in with like LTFM and operating capital expenditures and fund balance. So really going to ebb and flow just based on when projects are happening and just things that are going on. So 18, there wasn't quite as much. 19, the science room project started, so it really jumped up quite a bit. There was also a van and a bus purchase that year. And then in 2020, the science room really finished up, so there's a lot of additional costs that went in there. And then this current year in 2021, there was a lot of tech equipment and those kind of purchases, so that's why we're still seeing a pretty big jump there. Again, this will ebb and flow a lot, but you guys have been, putting in some good numbers here as far as capital expenditures, and you have the fund balances to back it up in the operating capital and LTFM, so that's good for me. So that is my last slide. Before I open it up to questions, I just want to say I really appreciate being able to do your guys' audit this year. Working with Gwen is always great, and as Lauren can attest, I'm sure, and we just really appreciate being able to do the audits and hope we can continue to do so. And thank you for
question, I was surprised at how much that increased numbers online during, COVID that really skewed our numbers as far as.
Well, we brought
Yeah.
in kids.
I mean, I realized that as it was coming on, but boy, when you look at the audit, it really showed evident.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really did, and, yeah, when you do it this way, when you're preparing this PowerPoint,
I'll be
and
posting
putting
this
together
on
some
the
of the notes
website.
for it as far as the revenue and expense and stuff, yeah, there's a lot. So, definitely really pulled some of those numbers up quite a bit for you guys.
And I just wanna point out too, with community services, the daycare portion of that, is huge. So we run our hurricane watch,
Oh,
and so.
that's what I
So
did
if you
make a
saw a
note
big
of that.
deficit and you're wondering why
Yeah.
that is, and that's in every single district, that's not just here in Houston, so that's been, so.
Yeah, oh, yes, absolutely, that's not
Yeah.
certainly not something that's, just on Houston, yeah, it's, something we've seen all across the
We had to
board,
do
it's,
that.
you know, like I said, that fund is hard to manage going through the pandemic
No,
and
we
everything,
should charge
so.
them.
Yeah.
You know, when we were,
Yeah, I made note of that, I was like, that's what it's.
But the main thing, we spend a lot of money on kids.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, that's,
Yes,
I mean, a lot of,
yeah.
you know, I know in the past, we had conversations on administrative costs, remember them days when, you know, and, to me, I think we've always focused on kids, and it shows you right here that 92% of our funds are going that way, so that's a good thing,
Yeah,
so.
if I had one takeaway on this whole thing, it would be the money's going to the instruction of the kids, and that's very, apparent in almost every slide, and, yeah, it's certainly something that if you can tip your hat on as the board is, you know, that's where the district's money's going, so it's good to see.
And then we look at the, where the money's coming from, only 3.5 is coming from local property taxes.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a
And
good
that's
thing too, it's not costing our local people as much money as they, you know, could be.
yeah, that's a very small number too, you know, most districts we see, you know, usually the lowest is 8, and it, you know, we can get up to 12 or so, you know, the 8 to 12 range, so very low number comparatively to.
And again, we're doing a lot with it, I feel, looking at the audit, you know, we're investing it properly as far as maintaining our building facilities. You guys know that on the facility committee, you know, look at the projects we've done over the years and what it has done to our school as far as enhancements. But at the end of the day, it hasn't really cost us a lot, you know, locals as much, we're still me, you know. So, I think everybody has done a great job, Gwen, as always.
Yeah, thanks,
Right?
Glenn.
Good job,
thank you.
so.
All right, well, thank you for joining us virtually. If the school board doesn't have any other questions, I'll get you out of here.
Thank you,
Hey,
folks.
Luke,
You guys can leave now.
Here,
Thank
here.
you for not being mad at me, cause I never gave you your
Appreciate
stuff.
it, and, yeah, you guys have a good meeting.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's Gwen, there's a rock star.
Hi, Gwen.
Alright.
Thank you so much, everybody. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Yep, bye-bye.
Do we have any other questions on that? We'll move right along. You ready, Mary?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay, old business, items for discussion and approval. Levy certification for 2021.
So this is what we've been talking about for the last 3 months or so. So I believe it's in your packet, but, the school board must certify the payable for 2021 and then the final levy, for 2022. If you guys can see that, so we need Gwen, anything you want, so this in years past, this is that long-term facility and maintenance revenue, down to the amount needed for the bond payments, for the indoor air quality for the project that we will be doing coming up, and also for our 10-year facility plan. And we, you know, this is what we talked about last meeting too, so we just need to make a motion to,
So we have a motion to approve the levy certification?
It's listed at the bottom of this document, please read that or
Oh,
use that motion.
Motion to approve,
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the final levy certification for 2021 payable in 2022 in the amount of $1,228,932.80.
perfect,
I'll second that.
okay?
Yes,
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Organizational meeting,
so we have that plan for January 6th. Again, just, I shared with you kind of the committees you were on in the past. I shared those a couple weeks ago. And also we'll talk about meeting dates, and I kinda mentioned it last time, but I'll mention it again, looking at organizational of moving to one school board meeting, a month, and so we'll talk about that at that January 6th meeting, and then putting those work sessions in where needed, to help streamline, Ann's processes, and also, I think, good for all of you with your busy lives as well, so just something to kinda keep on your mind as we're moving forward. Any questions on that?
No?
And we'll need approval of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good motion to approve the organization.
Yeah,
meeting?
I'll make the motion to have the organization meeting on January 6th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Don't forget to take a look at that list if you got it. On jobs. Okay, superintendent goal setting.
So this has to be done at a public meeting, so I went through the training, that MSBA puts out, and I know that you have all been through the training. The things that they say in that training are making sure that you pick 2 to 3 goals and 2 standards you wanna focus on. They really stress that this job is a quite large job, but we have to be focused as a district and make sure that we're true to, who we wanna be and what direction we want to go. The reason why I did the GINA thing first was to see where we're at and kind of help me, set goals and kind of look at that. So there's 2 things I think that came out, and I shared that PowerPoint, you know, that item that she put together for us too, to kind of consolidate our thinking, and so from that, there were some things that were very evident, and if you scroll down, those standards of communication and community relationships stood out, and then student support. And it's kind of fun to see that student support is on there when we're already doing such a great job with that, but that's something I wanna continue, to focus on. That's my driving force all the time, and so that instruction is just where we're at, and we're doing great things, so I wanna continue to move that forward. The other thing is making sure that they're kind of measurable goals, so I put some things down here. I'm open to whatever, we can modify, change this as time goes on, but this has to be a public meeting, so I wanna focus on continuing to grow our student offerings, for our school capacity at Houston High School and at MNDA. So looking at offering, post-secondary education options, starting with a couple teachers. We have a lot of our students that go, I don't know if you know this, but our juniors and seniors that go to Southeast Tech. And I worked very hard as a principal to keep our students in our buildings, and Gwen would appreciate that, because then the money stays within our buildings. So, really wanna work hard on that in offering and building our post-secondary options within our building, and not having kids have to go to Southeast Tech or Winona or wherever they're going for those. So that's one particular goal. And then also a goal through our MNBA. So this year we partnered with Richfield. It's been kind of an experiment, but our enrollment, we were able to get, we have 68 students. There are students that are partnered with Richfield, and I would like to continue to add schools. I think that Minnesota Virtual Academy and what we offer students can be something that can be even larger statewide, and then working with other school districts. I've already presented at MREA on this, and I will be at Secondary Principals Association, and I just presented to our local administrators just 2 weeks ago. So know that this is something that I've already been working on, but want to continue to work on, because with that comes funding and more opportunities for kids all around. And why wouldn't we want to help other kids from other school districts too? It's a win-win. The second one is to increase our communication with our community engagement. Just making sure that, you know, I'm out in the public as much as possible, meeting with community organizations, churches, gathering input, sharing, you know, monthly flyers, putting ads in the paper, just what other things that can we do to be out in that community. So it's something I hit pretty hard when I first started in July and August, and since the school year has been rolling, I haven't had enough opportunity to get back to. So really want to continue to focus in that area. So those are the things I have. I am open to add, change, modify. There is a rubric that goes along with this. So when you go to evaluate me at the end of the time, there's an actual rubric, and I can share that with you. I didn't share that because it's like a 40-page document right now, but I can take those standards and those goals out so that you can have guidance as you evaluate. So questions, comments, adds,
We should
subtracts?
say we were all presented with these earlier, so we're aware, so.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the public knows that we
just didn't come up with this tonight. Yeah, you're right, we did discuss it, we've had conversations on it, and like Mary said, when we had our meeting,
Study
the
session.
study session, these are kind of the focus things that collectively we've come up with, so.
I thought they were sufficient.
Yeah, well, it's important, I think all of these things are. Communication has been signed kind of on the list for quite a while, I think it's important for our superintendent to be part of the community and be open to that. And I think so far, we've had great community support, as far as I've seen. I mean, you guys have kids in school, you may know, hear more than I do on it. So,
A great start.
yeah. Okay, we need to approve these goals.
I don't know, this is my first rodeo, and do we need to approve superintendent goals? I would assume so.
Yes.
No. The answer to do. So,
I move to approve.
okay, got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion, comments? Appreciate getting this together, everybody working on it, thanks everybody. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Contract approvals, we talked about these, the principals, professionals, superintendent, confidential, bus drivers, grounds and maintenance. So, do we have a motion to approve those contracts?
So move. I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion. Thanks everybody that was involved in these contracts, it went smoothly, I think, this year for everybody. So,
Yep.
I appreciate everybody's work. So, we have a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Policies for second reading. We have a motion to approve policy 205, 206, 208, 211.
I move to approve policies 205, 206, 208, and 211.
Okay,
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, new business, items for discussion and approval, resolution to combine polling places. This will be a roll call resolution.
And this is just something that we have to do, so.
Yeah.
Something that we've done in the past.
So do we make a motion on it, or you just do a roll call vote of yes?
Yeah, make a motion.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the resolution.
Of the combined.
Yeah, well, I will make the motion to have combined polling place, now, that would be at the Houston Fire Department, on Highway 61. Excuse me, 16. Okay. This makes sense for everybody. Find your township when you're there, go Money Creek.
Okay, so we have a motion,
I'll second.
got a second. Okay, discussion? Roll call vote, Gene?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Tom? Aye. Okay, thank you. Announcements?
So just a, winter break is coming up and, we still will have walking on certain days if people from the community wanna walk. Steve is gonna be here some of those days, so I've communicated with our faithful walkers, in the morning, and they're pretty good about just texting me and making sure everything's good to go. We will have limited people in the building, so just a heads up on that as well. People need to take the time off, and I'm gonna encourage the administration to do the same and reboot and spend time with families, so I just want all of you to be aware of that. MSBA conference will be shortly after break, so that's on the 13th and 14th. So just a heads up on that. I have kind of a list of things that has just transpired in the last 48 hours, so I'm just gonna kind of go over it. We did have damage outside today. I have not had a chance to call the insurance agent. I have not even had a chance to talk to Glenn about this. So we do have a pole down. We have damage to our softball and baseball, so just so you know, there'll have to be some repair work done. So I'm sure Jean maybe felt the repercussions of that last evening, but just so you kind of know.
It missed the dugout.
Yep. So I will keep you updated. We'll probably have to have some buildings and grounds and just kind of moving forward, on that. With that kind of space too, I emailed you yesterday too, So the Able building is coming up for sale in between. I happen to know the person that runs that facility for my connections, so I had a chance to go pop over and look at it. So if it's something, you know, you guys had talked about the Catholic Church before, and it's just that building right between us and we evidently gave them the land when they first built it. It's nice, it has a garage and has a heated work spot in the back, so I think it'd be beneficial for us to look at it. They'd be willing to work with us, and before they put it on the market to anybody else, they would let us take a peek at it, so. I don't know where we're at, and I haven't had that conversation, it's just one of those things that came up, like, you know, they know about it, so I called and went to look at that, so, just a heads up on that. And then I shared this grant with Tom too, but there is a grant out there too to restore buildings within your community and purpose them for something school funded. I really wanna look into that. I think there's some buildings within our community that we could turn into a school functioning store of some sort. So I don't know if you're familiar, there's different public schools in the state of Minnesota. One of my good friends, he is in the northern part of the state, in the northwest, and he works with the Amish farms around him, and they create soaps and lotions, and they work with the school, and they market and they sell, and you can go onto their website and you can sell. And we have some really, my earrings I'm wearing tonight, these are from a student that made them. I told you I was gonna wear them tonight. But we have some really talented students, and I think it would be really cool to have a school store where they could create a web page, they could sell things, they could send it out. We have a few young students here that have written and wanna publish a book, and it's a beautiful book. And I just think that we have talents, and I'd like to showcase them, and maybe it's not just our Houston kids, but, you know, is it other kids from around the area? You know, I meet every week with other area schools, but, so, I'd like to kind of dig into that grant and see what's out there, and I always think that, and that would be definitely that community and communication.
I saw that in your update of the store, I really like the idea as well. I didn't catch the portion about, is that the key to the grant, is refurbishing an existing, and is there a certain vintage that you have to fall
Yeah, I'll
under?
have to dig into it. It's something that, I shared it with Tom a while back, but I really didn't have, you know, at the time when you get these things, you're like, oh, this is a cool idea, I'm gonna share it with Tom, and I kinda just get it. But then we have these kids making these things, and then I happen to talk to the English teacher, and they're like, well, we could sell books, you could sell, you know what I mean? And then all these conversations in the last couple of weeks have just really kind of unfolded, like, hey, this could be really good. And then I got thinking about my friend that does this, or there is another high school, what do they make? Did you guys see it? They make like, they cut metal for, was this on the news? Did you see the, anyway, there's a high school that's like cutting metal for a company, and they cut metal all day. There's another one that is making, they use their plasma cutter, and they're making like fire rings and whatever. Like, I don't know what the objects would be, but I think it would be really cool to rejuvenate our community, and at the same time have students kind of believe that, and what a great place. And then it's hard, you know, where we're at, to find kids to have work-based learning. We can create our own work-based learning right here.
I think we had something like that, one of the conferences up in Minneapolis. I don't know, Gene, were you up there at that one? They had some kids at some schools up north, who you were talking about, that did that, and they were showing the soaps and different,
Yeah,
different
it's probably,
products.
it's probably,
Yeah, it's probably the same
Yep.
school,
Yep.
and how they incorporated with classes that dealt with marketing and, you know, all the factors that go into running a business. So it's kind of a unique
That sounds
situation.
great.
we even had a Tech Tuesday, this is kind of really, but we had a Tech Tuesday, and we offered it, and the students actually led it in Triton. And Triton was made up of 3 smaller communities, so we'd go to the community center in West Concord, and the community center, and the students would work with, like, say my mom and dad, no offense, mom and dad, but they would come, and like, they got a new iPhone, they would help them and show them how to program it and set it up, and get their, you know what I mean, like, they would help, so the students would help them do. So that's just something that you don't actually even have to sell something, you know, like, what are our talents of our students, and how can we share them and teach them through the business model and the workforce.
I think that's great. I mean, there's a ton of different things that you're talking about, how to showcase services and new products or whatever, just more entrepreneurial, practical skills, right? So, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll look in more of that, so if you're all okay with that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
And then the final thing that I just have to say is I just wanna thank, so Andy, will be finishing up with our district and all of his years of service. So just, it's pretty cute today, the kids wore flannel shirts. And so, one little kid walks in this morning, he goes, he looks at Andy and he goes, I forgot to wear my flannel shirt. And Andy's going, what is up with this? And then later on, then they were all, so just, I wanna recognize his years of service for our district, and, he really touched a lot of kids' hearts, and that's what it's all about, that friendly smile too, and making a difference in our students, so they were very happy, and I have some pictures taken, but I have not done anything with them yet, so I just wanna share that with you. And then also Todd, Lundberg, will be done next Tuesday as well, so again, not only his years of service as a teacher and a coach, but all his years as an administrator, and he told me I have a job for him, so just so you all know, I want him to create a marathon and call it Minnesota's toughest marathon, and I want him to find a route from the top of the hill down to Rushford Peterson, and I want us to conduct the toughest marathon in Minnesota. So that's the job I've given him in his retirement, so.
So you're still gonna be willing to help out if we need him?
Yes, he told me he would not leave me, so.
Okay.
He's willing to help out,
That's my
so.
only question, so.
And again, I wanna just thank him, he has been, instrumental in my career as an administrator, and always a depth of knowledge, and someone I could always count on, and will continue to count on, so I wanna thank him for that.
Yeah. And I think the board feels the same way on both of them. They've done a lot for the school, they've been here a long time. Sad to see him go, but it's another chapter.
Leave your mark, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay, so we don't have any committee updates going on? You didn't have anything, did you?
I just wanna say something, wanna thank the board and the high school for allowing the holiday
Oh,
to be here.
Oh, that was a big success.
yeah.
We had about 200 there, and for the kids, and they appreciated that.
We reach a lot of people from out of town too, just meeting people at other communities coming for our holidazzle. I mean, it's quite a day.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had our Christmas concerts too,
This week,
the gauntlet of concerts, but they were really good.
we have another one on Monday, yeah?
That's
Is
right.
it Sunday or Monday? Monday?
Sunday at the,
Choir.
Church.
At
Church.
the
Yep.
church,
Yep.
the Lutheran church.
and then
And preschool was today, and they were as cute as could be too, so.
Very good.
Are they putting those on the TV, like we talked about, trying to get the events?
Yep, they've been, I don't know if we did preschool, just with our 2 hour late, today was a scramble of a lot of different things. So
And
we
you guys
still
all
held
heard
both
why they
programs,
do
but they were at different
Oh, yeah,
times.
yep.
And just so you know, if you're getting any feedback, too, about, our message system, so this Thrill Share we adapted and, that talks with our webpage, it's not talking super nice to Infinite Campus, so I know some people are not getting their alerts. We did figure out a pretty big problem today, and hopefully we can get that resolved, and I just want parents and community members to know, just reach out to us so that we can go in there and manually change. Because if they've entered something wrong, or they've changed their cell phone number, they're not gonna get any of our messaging stuff, so,
So
so just
few,
if you're here, just tell them to reach out to us.
few families did not get communication.
Yeah, about the 2 hour late, yeah, so, yeah, so just if you see them, just tell them to reach out to me, and we'll figure it out, but we're trying to resolve it. So, I think it'll be a good system once we work out the kinks.
Okay, so, no more feedback from you? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Well, second.
Discussion. You sure? No discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you guys all for showing up tonight, it was a pleasure. Last meeting of, the year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
What happened, Mary, then, what do you think, what was there, what segment